Welcome back. Now, the recent crime statistics have once again revealed how violence against women and children remains a nightmare in South Africa. According to the statistics, at least 3 children and 12 women were murdered daily between October and December last year. That's just 3 months. UNICEF South Africa's Christine Muhigana joins us now for more on this particular story. Thank you very much for your time here on eNCA, Christine. Just firstly, hearing the minister and the SAP's top brass last week Friday telling us 199 more women were killed during those 3 months compared to the previous quarter. This then means South Africa has almost become the most violent country in the world instead of one of, right?
Absolutely. Very worrisome, concerning, particularly a country where we don't have conflict, we don't have war. So to hear that so many children, women lose their lives in a country such as South Africa is just heartbreaking.
Besides heartbreaking, it's also quite embarrassing, when we try and plead our case to the rest of the world in terms of why we deserve the money that we apply from them, etc. And then you find out about these particular statistics, for instance, 82 murders in South Africa a day.
Right. And so that translates to 3 children a day, 12 women a day murdered in this country. And yeah, beyond the words and the outrage that we want to express at these kinds of figures, is just recalling that actually there are actions that are being taken to prevent and to respond to these types of outrageous events and violence, and we need to support those. You spoke about funding that may be coming from elsewhere, but there are plenty of resources within the country, within South Africa, allocated to such programs that we also associate ourselves with. Programs such as those that are led by the Departments of Social Development. There is a program called Risiha, which is a community-based child protection program that looks at a sort of a whole community, a whole society approach to preventing and responding to violence against children in communities. I see on the screen that we have a budget speech, very awaited budget speech coming up. And for us, the resources that are already allocated to preventing violence against children and women need to be protected, and where possible, these programs need to be given more funding, because they are really at the core almost of survival of the society in which and communities in which children live in South Africa.
Now, this is not the first time we're seeing an increase in the number of children that are being killed in South Africa. Some of the statistics that they released last week showed that the second highest reason behind murder is vigilantism, and the third highest reason is basically just retaliation or revenge, people wanting to avenge themselves or their families. But what does it say about South Africa to see an increase in the number of children being murdered in our country every quarter? It's been about 3 or 4 consecutive quarters now.
Yeah, I mean, it just tells us that we need to stop and take action, looking at why these crimes are committed. You alluded to vigilantes' revenge, but we also see a very worrisome increase, according to the South African Medical Research Council, of children who die in the very early ages of their lives. Killed or harmed by people who are taking care of them. And the types of crimes or death that you are alluding to actually target more adolescents, so children who are older than 16 years old who are involved in gang activities and, you know, are killed because they are associated with peers who are violent and engaged in violent crimes. So yeah, the numbers are increasing. They need to give us that this sense of urgency for action, and to supporting the programs that are working, that we know are working in terms of changing, you know, the behavioral patterns of people who care for children, changing the behaviors of how men and women interact with each other, whether when they are, you know, in couple or in relationships.
All right, so Christine, you know, for me, the question always is, you know, it's not only police or government that can fight crime, especially against women and children, right? You know, it's also a societal issue that not only police and government can sort out. So we cannot continue to only blame them. Yes, police are our first line of, you know, response, because that's where we report crimes, etc. But surely it's also how society acts, and the fact that children become victim to a lot of situations, domestic violence, GBV, for instance, and then they become part of the collateral. If, for instance, in some cases, a father decides to kill his wife, himself, and the children, you know what I mean? So it's not an issue. It's not one of those societal issues where stakeholders are only government and police. It's every one of us.
Absolutely. That's why, you know, the programs such as the Risiha program that's supported by or led by the Department of Social Development are so key. It's a program that's actually anchored in the community, where the community is empowered to detect and, you know, have early detection and prevention of cases. They work with schools so that the teachers in schools are also skilled to detect and see when a child is at risk, or when a child is able to express that there are problems at home, so that, you know, support can be given to that family. It's also about the role of our health centers, the clinics, the hospitals. There are places where people who are harmed, who need support, come for services, and can also be put in a situation where they're confident enough to speak about very worrisome and violent situations in which they live. And the health centers, you know, the health personnel needs to be equipped, capacitated to also address those things, because, as we know, they're very busy with doing the work that they're supposed to be doing, which is, you know, very medically related. But they ought to also be able to refer when they see that there are cases that come to them, where even if the child or the woman doesn't express, you know, the desperation and the distress that they're in, if they're able to detect and, you know, make sure that the information comes to them in a way, even if it's an anonymous manner, so that they can be protected while remaining in their family, if you know, if it's impossible for them to extricate themselves from a very difficult situation.
Setting. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us, Christine Muhigana from UNICEF South Africa.